Janice, are you there?
At your service, sir.
Give me some of that dating foolishness.
Will do, sir.
Well, I always say that, right? It's like so many people come to us and you're, lucky that you figured this out at such a young age. But sometimes in our 40s, 50s, 60s, even, it's like we're expecting that whoosh. And if we don't feel that excitement right away on the first date, we're very ready to throw someone back to the pond, right? Because that's what social media, that's what Hollywood rom-coms, right? And that's what our single friends tell us. Like, oh, if you're not feeling anything, forget about it. Because let's see who else, is in my inbox this morning. And that's so often not the right decision.
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. This is not a diss video. I repeat, this is not a diss video. We're not dissing this woman's looks, but we need to emphasize her average appearance to effectively convey the point we want to make with this video. So check it out. This video is from the Smart Dating Academy, where a dating coach talks to one of her clients about her success story. The real golden nuggets of wisdom come when she tells what she did in her 20s, before she decided to hire a dating coach in her 30s to help her get the relationship she has now. Let's talk about it. Now it's time for us to get into this and do what we gotta do, because we men.
Kind of take us through, what your life looked like as a city girl dating, what was going well, what wasn't, just kind of give us the background.
Yeah. So Chicago in my 20s was in many ways, the best time. I had really, great jobs. At the time I was really focused on careers. So I was, sort of often thinking about life through that lens. So I was doing cool things for work, had come out of undergrad, was kind of before grad school at that point. So just really heads down and doing interesting things that I really loved. I had a great group of girlfriends who I'm still close with today in a lot of cases. And so, we were just taking advantage of everything the city had to offer, traveling all the time. I think they probably would have put a limit on how often we were going to Nashville if they could have at some point. We just, it was a time to be alive. And, we all were trying to date, I think, as well. But I, emphasize the word trying because it just was not, I think we all, sometimes we've reflected on it since, we loved being a group and we sort of had our relationship as a reference point, girlfriend relationship. And so would talk a lot about these dates. And it was like, if it wasn't, the most amazing, most fun, could beat hanging out with each other for, a night, right? Then there was a lot of pressure to think about whether or not you wanted to keep pursuing it. So I think we were, trying to date, but probably didn't have the right tools, and then not prioritizing it, I think, in hindsight, as much as, work or the fun things we were doing together. So it was definitely a good time of life, but as much as I thought I wanted to be in a relationship, I'm not sure I was really putting that front of mind or putting the effort in as much as I could have been.
She just told 80-90% of that dating foolishness we have today. City girl had the best times in her 20s, her prime years, her college years. No surprise. But she did not prioritize relationships. Why?
Why?
Once again, emphasis on the average looking woman, because it's not that this woman was not getting any dates. Getting dates, getting attention from men is not a problem for women in general. That's why they don't prioritize relationships and take them for granted in their prime. Of course, we have the element of euphemism that contributes to this mindset, because don't get it twisted. Just because she was single doesn't mean she was celibate during that time either. Having fun includes... Shout out to Chad, who smashes the whole scale from 1 to 10.
Smash.
And the sisterhood strikes again. It's single women who keep each other single. Women prioritize the validation of the sisterhood more than anything else. Have you noticed that women repeat the same things as if they were all reading from the same playbook? No wonder why they always get destroyed on these podcasts, because all they know is that feel-good Kool-Aid that the sisterhood serves them.
Can you make me feel good? Can you make me feel good?
To say I finally realized it's valuable, even if no one else agrees. It's my point of view, and I have a right to have it, so...
No substance. Let's take it a step further.
Well, I love what you're saying, that it's like dating sort of fits in around activities with friends and work as priorities and school. And then when you do go out on a date, you want to feel that, oh my God, overwhelming chemistry, overwhelming fireworks. Otherwise, it's like, meh, back to the pond.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And obviously, you want to feel something, but yeah, I think what that something should feel like, and probably also was influenced a lot by, I was more, I hadn't dated a ton at that point, like real relationships. So it was a lot of like the rom-coms of my, middle school years that probably also were influencing, what you expected. And so, yeah, it was, I think, the little bit misaligned in terms of what would be realistic for a first or second date.
When I hear rom-com, the first thing that comes to mind is Sex and the City. Sex and the City messed a lot of women up. This rom-com instilled in them the idea that it is acceptable to enter a sexual relationship with a man only to end it abruptly because of something as trivial as his snoring at night. These are true stories. Men are dumped and rejected for no reason. He was wearing the wrong shoes. He didn't text her back fast enough. He missed his mind reading for beginners class and couldn't quite pull out the words she wanted to hear at that oh so perfect moment. The foolishness. And when it's over, it's never her fault. And she doesn't think much of it. She just jumps right back on that hot dog carousel because according to these rom-coms, she has to feel this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Suddenly, I felt the wind knocked out of me. I wanted to crawl under the covers and go right to sleep.
So, women going all out with their partying and riding the hot dog carousel in their 20s might seem like a blast, but little do they know that the consequences of those wild nights come knocking on their door in their 30s. Pay close attention. We're gonna let her talk for almost 3 minutes. See what happens.
And then years go by and you're doing all of these cool things. And then at a certain point, I always say life gives us an inflection point, right? It's like that moment in time where things change. What made you kind of sit back and go, okay, I think it's time to do this. I think it's time to change things up, because you had tried matchmaking, you had tried speed dating events, the apps, meeting people in real life, taking trapeze lessons. How about we? So what was that moment where you're like, okay, and how old were you ish?
Well, it's funny because I think, there was a moment, but there were also a few other sort of big chunks in there. Okay. And this is hilarious. This is another thing you'll probably say you didn't know. And it's not totally true, but I went to grad school somewhere in the middle. And I had known people actually, again, from the coworkers that we knew in common, people that had met people at business school. So part of me was also like, oh, business school, like that'll be the chance, like I should go to business school to meet someone. I went to business school for my career, but like in the back of my mind, I thought, maybe that would also be a way to, a bunch of people from all over the place, somewhat like-minded.
Your MBA would turn into an MRS, as I say.
Yep, I would say that too, aloud. But that didn't happen. And then I moved to LA, and I think it was, just a lot of change initially and a lot to sort of get settled into. And so there was just a period where I was still dating technically, but I was even further almost from being ready because I was just, adjusting to all these new variables, post grad school, being back at work, different industry entirely, different city, meeting new friends. And so I think finally, it's funny because it was like the end of 2019, which we all know, that timing was important for a different reason, but end of 2019, not knowing if pandemic was coming the next year. I think I finally sort of had settled into my life here. And, when you look back on, as I would say, like as somebody who's very achievement oriented, to look back on whatever that was then, almost, 10 years of trying to date, probably from about 24 to 34, with really nothing to show for it. I was like, okay, this, like, if this was anything else in my professional life, I would seek outside counsel, because a 10-year track record with no results is not really I probably wouldn't still have that job, you know, if that was a job. So I think it was just like, it had been long enough, and I was, you know, getting older, like obviously thinking about timelines for kids and stuff, right? Like it was just like, yeah, something has to change, because clearly I'm not succeeding at this on my own.
Do you see why her environment and circumstances have to take a U-turn before she finally snaps out of the illusion she's been chasing for a good 15 years? Women in their early 30s seem to get this wake-up call. Looks fade, decrease in demand, biological clock is ticking, and a resume of Chad and Tyrone that... Once again, this is an average-looking woman, and she was shooting for an above-average man. She mentioned business school. Remember this?
What is gonna guarantee the most steady income?
What is gonna get me a house?
Location, location, location.
Once you know what you're looking for, you can figure out where you need to go to meet these people. If you want a man who's gonna give you like wealthy luxury experiences, upscale bar, upscale gym, upscale grocery store. I used to walk around that Erewhon like I lived there. I was 12-3-30ing in the Erewhon, okay?
Ali Wong settled for a husband to secure the bag. And the moment she moved up the ladder in status, financial resources, and an environment of high status men, she divorced her husband so she could date up again. Now pay attention to what this woman had to change in order to get her current boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I've told, you know, many people, or I've reflected this back to different people over the years since. So there's, you know, a few kind of lessons when I really think back on it, that are changes that I think came out of working with you and with Lindsay and with the process. Because I did need to sort of shift there are a few big things about how I was trying to date and what I was expecting from dating that I think weren't quite working. So one of the big learnings for me was I was very, you know, and I think I mentioned a couple times that, like, professionally, I work in business. You know, at some point in the LA job, actually, I was very much building a team, used to, like, you know, reviewing the resume and trying to figure out, okay, should we bring this person in for an interview, a second interview, you know, so this like process of, let me look at something on paper and try to decide yes or no, you know, get a long ways towards the decision just from paper. Like, the apps had all also, you know, from in a dating sense, had sort of set that same construct up, right? Like, oh, if I just know whether they smoke or not, or want kids or not, or what they put for their religion, or, you know, like, then I can quickly narrow it down. And so I can, you know, be very targeted in these dates that I'm going on. And so one of the big things that I think from the Smart Dating Academy process and working with you guys was just realizing I need to actually get to know people, not profiles. Like, maybe you screen to some extent, but if I was screening out, you know, 90% just based on a two-dimensional view, like, let's, you know, cut that in half, or cut that down by some percentage where you're going out with more people and meeting real people, more real people, less, you know, profiles.
Most women today are not able to make these adjustments. There's a reason why they predict more single women in the future. Check this out.
Yes, for a long time, I didn't do it because women in general, they don't want to hear. They think their way is right. And I'm crazy when I say sit down, shut up, and listen, and you can create what you want. They don't want to hear that.
There are dating coaches who quit because they can't get through these delusional women. Once again, this is an average looking woman. It's average looking women who walk around with this sense of entitlement. It's not men with these ridiculous expectations. That's why this channel is not to convince women to be better or lower their expectations. Nah, this channel is for men. That's why we started this channel. Not because we hate women. is because men's voices need to be heard, and men need to be educated on the foolishness that's going on so they can protect themselves at all times. The channel is called Manosphere Highlights Daily. We highlight men's issues, female nature, and the effects of society on human behavior. We encourage you to become the best man that you can be. But if you want to know how to do push-ups, then you have to go to the push-ups channel. If you want to know about money, you have to go to the money channel. I've said it many times on this channel that I took my talents overseas. I had to look for content that could help me with that. So I watched a combination of channels: push-up channels, money channels, travel channels, language channels, and manosphere channels. Everything that I had to do to become the best version of myself. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. You know why? Because we men, ain't we? We men, ain't we? Woo! That was pure gold! Manosphere, we working. Protect yourself at all times. This video has officially been highlighted! Woo!